Hey guys. Ooh, I'm shaking. I'm actually having horrible tremors right now because had so much anxiety about doing this. And it's something I need to do. But I still have a lot of anxiety about it because I know the multitudes of people that it's going to upset. And if they ever see it. And all sorts of things that can come back at me because of it. But over all these years, and the prayer and reflection and everything that's coming up, as well as the EMDR trauma therapy that I'm doing, I need to expose this. And I've always been afraid to do so before. As a Catholic, of course, because it's a Catholic place and it's a Catholic homeschooling place, and what will the poor children do if they don't have, these Catholic books, and, our loved people in the family that ran this place, or runs this place, and, just multitude of reasons. And now it just falls in line perfectly with everything else that I've learned about Catholicism. And just to kind of get right into it, I'm in no way, shape, or form against homeschooling. I think homeschooling done right, when the parent knows what the hell they're doing, or they actually have a tutor, and the children are actually learning and not falling behind and getting everything that they need to get done, that's fine. I'm not against that at all. What I'm against is homeschooling, which is actually child laboring your kid and saying you're homeschooling them so you don't have to prove it and so nobody finds out. And that's basically what happened to me. And I've heard other stories. There have been families who had their kids locked in closets and said they homeschooled them. And I think there's a lot more laws and regulations put in place at this point. But at the time, this is in the heart of Front Royal, Virginia, which I also like to call Catholic Town, USA. It's probably where most of the hardcore, devout, traditionalist Catholics are, even several Byzantine Eastern rites, and which the family that runs this place is. We moved from Illinois when I was 10 to Front Royal, Virginia. And I was told we did that because it's a nice Catholic place, and there's a Catholic college there, and we were going bankrupt. He was going bankrupt because he lost his company to his right-wing man, and he was being offered a position at Seton Home Study School to work there for marketing, I think was the first thing. So before I even was able to turn 11, I was put to work there. And I will never forget the day that I was told by my mother's husband that he couldn't financially provide for this family. We had 7 kids at the time. We hadn't had the last Philip. But it's 7 kids at the time, and that he could not support us. And so therefore it was my responsibility as one of the older kids to go to work. And so I was put to work. And I was also enrolled. I was enrolled in classes, but it was a pile of books that sat there that I was never there to do, and that I couldn't keep up with, and that nobody taught me or did anything or supervised or anything like that. So, sorry, I'm shaky. I started out in the testing department. No, I started out packing rosary boxes. Is what they called them at the time. They're for new families that have enrolled, and they have a box with different books and pamphlets in it and starter kits. And I remember you always had to count how many kids there were, because that's how many rosaries you put in a box, and then tape it up, and then they get shipped off. That was the first thing I did. By the time, it wasn't that long that I was doing that before I was moved to the testing department, where ironically enough, I was correcting tests for children who were older than me, 7th and 8th graders when I was 10, 11. By the time I was 12, I was moved to the admissions department, where I was until I was 16 going on 17. All those years. So collectively 6 years, maybe a little bit over 6 years. I was child labored at Seton Home Study School. This is a fact that can be proven in a court of law. This is not something made up. There is nothing in my adult life that exonerates this. There's nothing in my adult life that justifies this. There's nothing that I can do or say for the rest of my life that will make what they did okay, what they allowed okay. And in addition to being worked in an office, a regular office job, I was also given the janitorial duties of the entire building. I did it on my own. Every once in a while, a friend would come with me, or one of my siblings or whatnot, if we had to get it done faster, but I primarily cleaned that entire building 3 nights a week on my own. And I'm talking vacuuming, trash, cleaning the bathrooms, hauling the garbage bags, all of them out to a dumpster at like midnight and 1 in the morning. I mean, I'd be there all hours of the night sometimes. And so not only did Dr. Mary Kay Clark know that I was being child labored, she hired me as a child and even watched me sign over checks to my mom's husband because I never kept a single penny. And not a single penny ever went to any of my needs, to any of my education. I remember being 16 going on 17, begging to go to the community college, begging him to let me go to the community college, let me keep some of my money so I can go. No, I never saw a penny of that money. I might have gotten 10 or 20 bucks here and there throughout my life, usually after I'd been attacked or something, but nothing regular. All my checks were signed over. This is not something that got overlooked. This is not like, oh, I was close to being 16 or an age where I could work. I was close to being able to do this or that, or I just slipped in there under the radar and it was working. No, I got actual paychecks from this company at those ages. And so it was knowingly. Now, Dr. Mary Kay Clark, who owns the business, stands the most liable in this. She allowed it. For whatever reason, it doesn't matter. I was not given an education. I was not provided an education beyond 4th grade in Illinois at the Catholic private school. I was so self-conscious my entire life. I thought I was stupid because I didn't get an education past 4th grade. I thought I was dumb. I thought everybody else thought I was dumb. Also because I was told that, throughout different abuse. And I did take a college entrance exam at Lord Fairfax Community College when I was 24 to get over that fear and to see where I was at. I was like, I'm just going to go do it. And I went to do the placement test, and I was in the 98th percentile in everything except math, which was 40%. And I suck at math. But I don't know, maybe I don't suck at math. Maybe I just never had the opportunity to get it. So, that was something that affected me for several years. So, I remember the only thing that I was told when I did finally start saying things, and that was one of the reasons that I butt heads with some people, is because I would ask the questions and I would stand up for what I didn't think was right. And I was told, oh, we're an apostolate. We're an apostolate, and families are allowed to work their kids like farms. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way, and I've looked up the laws and I've spoken with attorneys, and it doesn't work that way. Even at 16, 17, during that time, you were allowed to work 23 hours a week at the time, and I think a max was 3 hours in a day. 14, 15, and 16, I was putting in 50 plus hours a week between the janitor work and between this office job. And so not just Dr. Clark, not just my mother's husband who put us to work, obviously he's at fault as well, but every single adult that worked in that building, particularly in the departments, and watched me be child labored for 6 years. I mean, shame on all of you. Honestly, shame on all of you. And I just have to at least say that once. And I forgive you, but I'm exposing this. And I can't imagine being in that position and seeing somebody bring children to work consistently for years and not do anything about it, not say anything about it. The only person who ever said anything about it, I was 14 and like 7 months old. And this disgruntled employee, which there were many because they would get rid of people for all sorts of manipulative reasons, she was angry, and so she went to the child labor department to report it because she knew it was wrong, but she didn't do it all the years because for me or for my older brother and sister, because they were being put to work. She did it because she was pissed off at them because she got fired and she wanted to get them in trouble. So shame on you too, honestly. And you all know who you are. I could name you all right here, but I'm not going to. So yeah, there were many things that happened that were really traumatizing because of that. I remember one time, there was this big giant guy that worked there. Huge, like my 600-pound life guy. But he could walk and everything. And, he would oftentimes hang around with my mom's husband or come over to our house. There was a lot of weirdos that came over to our house to play chess with her husband and stuff. That were just awful people to us. And this guy, like, literally cornered me one night. I was trying to take the trash out to the dumpster as a child in the middle of the night. And I would leave the latch to the heavy door. I would leave the bolt open so I wouldn't get locked out. I didn't have to walk around to get to the front. And this would piss him off. I can't remember for what reason he would complain. He's like, oh, it's breaking the door. You can't do that. You can't leave the bolt open. But I wasn't about to go out to a dumpster, even at that age. In the middle of the night, I knew not to go out to a dumpster and lock myself out of a building. And so this guy, after, blocks me from the back door. And this is a huge man, huge. Starts yelling at me and attacking me. He wouldn't let me past him. I ran around to the front of the building, put in the code, and came upstairs and told Dr. Clark. And of course she freaked out and acted like, oh, how could he do blah, 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 blah. And I don't even know if she talked to him, but she acted like it was a big deal. And then I went home and nothing really happened. The guy who was hired to do this janitorial service is the one who handed the job over to my mom's husband, and my mom's husband is the one who put it on my shoulders. But they all knew I was doing it. They all knew it. They all knew they weren't getting tests in from me. They knew they weren't getting work in from me as far as education goes. Any work that they did get when I tried was probably flunking, even though my IQ is above average, and even though, like I said on the college entrance, it proves that I'm intelligent. You know, I didn't think I was all those years. And so, you know, I know it's probably hard for a lot of people to hear because they love it or they love the books, or, you know, it's all indoctrinated in Catholicism as well. It's like they take their education and academics, just like the public schools dip it in, you know, liberal shit. Seton would just like douse it in Catholic doctrine and brainwashing. And so it's all Catholic. Every single subject is Catholic in it. And that's all you learn when you're in it. I read a lot as a kid. I read a lot of books, and so I would read books when I was there sometimes. And I even had someone I considered a friend most of my life, way older than me. She came into start working when she was 25 and I was 14. And basically, when I left Catholicism last year, she didn't want anything to do with me anymore. And she was like the only adult who ever listened to me talk about anything, ever asked about, ever saw that there was anything wrong. And she knew there was something wrong. She knew eventually I was being abused. We were being abused and neglected, and I was being child labored, but she still also didn't do anything about it. None of them did. And again, this can be proven in a court of law, and it will be. And I know how this stuff works. I know, especially with Catholics, they will jump up and defend the majority. They will jump up and defend the big guns, you know. Eitenauer, for example, you know, things they know nothing about in reality, you know, and then they will just basically cut down the victim, which I was. I'm not a victim anymore. I survived it, but I absolutely was. I mean, think about it. A 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old sitting in a cubicle being bossed around by adults all day long in an office. Not only did Seton Home Study School deprive me of an education entirely, but every adult in there allowed that felony, allowed that injustice. And a lot of them mistreated me as well. I would just have knots in my stomach all the time about making a mistake or doing something wrong. You know, there was this one guy, the oldest son of the woman who owns the place, would always come storming in. You could hear him from a mile away like an elephant, just come storming in. I would get knots in my stomach. Be like, please don't say anything to me. Please don't say anything to me. I mean, this is not stuff I should have ever been worrying about at those ages. So my mom, after the fact, you know, when we're adults, she says, yeah, I told him I didn't want him to put you guys to work. I mean, there are people I know, if they're subpoenaed, will not lie under oath because they do believe they'll go to hell. And they actually do believe in God, and they think they're worshiping the Christian God, even though they're not. So there's all sorts of people who can be subpoenaed that will tell the truth, that this is the truth. And like I said, they issued paychecks that I signed. I mean, they might try to get rid of that evidence. Maybe they have, because I remember a few years ago, because the guy that I've spoken about on here that I was in a relationship with for about a year, horrible, horrible, sick, twisted relationship, is the grandson of this woman. And there are people that are related in this family that I do love. It's true. Doesn't make it okay. Doesn't mean I should keep my mouth shut. Doesn't mean I shouldn't do anything. And honestly, quite the contrary. I'm starting to realize that most of these people have never cared about me truly. Because if they did, they would never try to make me feel bad about bringing this to justice. They would never try to make me feel bad. They would have stepped in and done something. But it's all passive. It's all just, let's not cause scandal on anything that has the name Catholic in it. It's the truth, guys. This family, the Clarks who run this business, I know not all of her sons work in the business, but I think some of them have at one time or another, and then some of them are still there. And my grandmother was friends with her when they were young. And so the families knew each other growing up in Ohio, where they were originally as well, before they came and established this homeschooling company. Do not be fooled that this company needs your money either. This so-called apostolate. I can remember going down, we had to go down and do the Angelus like every day at, was it 11 or noon? I don't remember. In their Byzantine chapel down there. They had their own built-in chapel with their pagan host and altar and everything in there. And you'd have to go down and do the Angelus. And she would do this string of prayer intentions every day. And the thing that she would emphasize the most was always $1 million donor. She would like say, so-and-so, we pray for this, we pray for that, we pray for this, we pray for that. And then we all knew as soon as she got to the money part, it was like, we pray for $100 donor, $1,000 donor, $1 million donor, $1 billion donor, $1 zillion, like it never ended. It was just money, money, money. These people have more money than you can fathom. Trust me. These people are swimming in money. And I also know for a fact they have embezzled a lot of money. But that's not what this video is about. And that's not something I can probably prove. But what I can prove is that I was child labored. What I can prove is that the home study school deprived me of an education. And allowed me to be child labored. And put me to work. Hired me. They may have not had me on the books at 10 or 11. But there are people who will testify that I was. But I know I signed over checks, so I know they had me on the books. And even when I was finally 16, 15, 16, I think, yeah, because I was 14 in so many months when that woman reported it, child labor came in, and they got rid of, like Dr. Clark said, go home. She didn't let me come back to work for a few months until I turned 15 because she didn't want to get in trouble. So they got ahead of the game. And so there was just a few month period where I was home more than I was at work. And so I was working as an adult and being expected to be a breadwinner. Also went at home expecting to raise 5 younger kids, take care of my sick mom, and try to protect them from my violent older brother and sister and my mom's husband. Although his violence was mostly towards me at that point. I came into that place with black eyes. I came into that place in bruises that people saw. They never did anything. Nobody ever did anything. It's always hush-hush with Catholicism and any connection whatsoever with it. Never take responsibility. You know, gather the masses to attack the person that has had the injustice done to them. Just because you're Catholic, just because you put on a facade that you're these great people who want to help all these children get an education. But at what expense? At whose expense? At the expense of another child's education and childhood. I remember the one thing that I liked to do, the one thing I was able to do socially at all, over those years was basketball. And I loved it. And I was great. I was the best at it. Not just on that team, but I mean, I got all my affirmation from other people's parents on that floor because my parents never came. I think they came to like one championship game. But everything else, all those years, none. But I loved it. I loved the adrenaline, the competition. I loved people yelling my name out. I loved, you know, them yelling my number, telling them to stop me, putting 2 or 3 people on me just to keep me from making a basket, you know. It was something that I was really good at, that I got attention for, and I never got attention for anything. And so, you know, I craved that at that point, naturally, as a child would when you're not getting any attention. I loved it, and I was good at it. And the second year, it was either the second year or the third year of basketball, my mom's husband said, you can't play basketball this year because I need you to be working more. You know, you got to continue doing the janitor work that I did all by myself on top of the office work. And I remember my coach at the time, who was also a Catholic with a Catholic family in the same parish, he went to my mom's husband and said, look, I'll drop her off to do this cleaning. I'll drop her off to do this janitor work after practices. Just please let her be on the team. And of course, his whole motive was winning. I mean, he wanted me on the team because I was the best player he had, and without me, he wouldn't win the games. His daughter was next to me, but she wasn't as good as me. And the last year that I played basketball, I was so depressed from all the abuse and everything that had happened to me that I stopped trying. And so then she became, you know, the top that year. But in reality, I was the top. You know, I was a 10-year-old that could make 3-pointers and stuff. And, yeah, so he begged my mom's husband to allow me to play basketball, and that he would give me all the rides, and he would bring me to Seton to do the janitor work after hours. And so he said, okay. I can also remember volunteering at the local hospital. I think it was Warren Memorial Hospital. And I was so excited about it because I wanted to go into the medical field. I wanted an education. I wanted to go to college so badly. Like, I wanted to go to Steubenville even, was the main college that I wanted to go to at the time. Just because of the conferences I'd experienced and getting away from the hellhole I was in. Now I'm glad that stuff didn't happen, but I still did want an education. I wanted to go into the medical field. And so I was volunteering on the labor and delivery ward, which was where I wanted to be mostly, and then I was also volunteering in the nursing home section. And I wasn't even there 2 weeks before he made me come. He said I couldn't do it anymore because I had to put in more hours at this place. I was allowed at like 15 and 16, I was allowed to go to a friend's house 1 night a month. That was the basic rule, but lots of times it wasn't even that often. 1 night a month. I had a pile of books shoved in my face. They said, do it. While I'm working, while I'm pulling in money, while I'm raising these kids, while I'm protecting everyone. You know, like I said, there's nothing I can do or say that discredits this. There's nothing I can do or say as an adult that justifies what these people have done and have not done in this situation. The whole world is fooled by this company, just like the whole world is fooled by Catholicism. And they will never apologize. They will never really apologize, you know, because people in higher positions as Catholics and even a lot of laity, they will only ever show the tiniest bit of remorse or apology if they know they've been caught to the point they can't hide it. They can't shove it under the rug. It's the same thing HLI did with Eitenauer. The only reason that they went to the bishop and said, if you don't move him back down to Florida, we're going to out and say what he did to the girls, what he did to me and that other girl. So they did. Nobody in that church, nobody in that cult wants to take responsibility for anything. They hide everything and anything that could possibly put any sort of taint or scandal on them, which is all over the place, and it seeps over anyways because of how much there is. I'm not against homeschooling. I am not against homeschooling, and I'm not saying that kids who have done this program have not had a good education. They've had probably a good education with a lot of indoctrination. But I'm not against people who have enrolled. You guys don't know any better. You guys don't know what's happened. But for every one of you who worked there when I worked there, every one of you, it's completely inexcusable. You know, people are always wiping their hands in these cults and these messed up religions, like, oh, it's none of our business. The child abuse is none of our business. It's none of our business if he hits her in the face when she's at home. It's none of our business if, you know, they need the money and they're putting their kids to work. I'm just going to stay out of it. No, it's every adult's responsibility when a child is being abused or neglected. Period. Period. Every last one of you is responsible. Every last one of you carries a responsibility for the fact that I was child labored from 10 to 16 going on 17. I can't get that time back. I was never given a penny of it. I signed over every penny. I don't understand it. I don't understand how people could let it fly and could watch that and just nothing could happen. And even more so, I don't understand how someone who comes off as this wonderful Christian person, which she's not, she's a devout pagan Catholic, like the rest of them are, that have no problem bending and breaking rules and laws as long as they think it's okay according to their Catholic traditions. So even if she thought, oh, the poor family's poor, let's work the kids. How about give him a raise and pay people what they should be paid, because she way underpaid people too. Way underpaid people. And I know a lot of them would holler at that because she way underpaid people for the amount of money that they had and the work that these people do. So a few years ago, I tried going with the guy that I was with at the time. Even though he was a part of that family, I talked to him about it. And I had actually gone in, had the courage to walk into that building after all those years, because I was looking for the records. I wanted the records of my clock in and outs and the paychecks and everything like that. And they pretended like they don't hold that stuff, they can't release that stuff, or they don't have it anymore. But I'm pretty sure it can be found somewhere. I'm pretty sure it can absolutely be traced, actually, if they were checks. They should be able to be traced. And I'm not sure what the statute of limitations are. I'm about to find out. But either way, I'm exposing it. Seton Home Study School is not what you think it is. It's not what you think it is. And even if it is everything you think it is as far as wonderful curriculum and wonderful people, child laboring, even if it was just me, it's unacceptable. And it's disgusting. It's sickening. And there's no amount of money there's no amount of money I could be awarded from a suit that can give me back those years. And that's all I have to say for now.